Welcome to those of you online and those of you here. My name is Bryce Hein. I'm with Quantum. We're a specialist in data protection and scale-out storage. And the topic that I wanted to cover at this vBrownbag is the fact that backup's busted. There's pressure on batch backup and how we approach it today. And it's only going to get worse as we look forward. So I'm going to give you a few helpful hints on how to attack the problem now and how to prepare yourself for the future. So first, let's take a little step forward in time and look at how this problem around batch backup is only going to get worse and more amplified over time. By year 2020, we'll have 23 zettabytes of data stored in the environment. There's so much data that vendors are making up new names, from exabytes to zettabytes to yottabytes and beyond. But the problem about this is not just the amount of data, but the makeup of the data, as well as the role that cloud and virtualization play in that, and finally, the role that the business line owner plays in that. They want to extract more value from the data. They want backup to work harder for them. For example, as we look at the quantity and the type of data, one of the things we look at is that by the year 2020, 50% of the data will be images, rich content. It'll be video, pictures, audio, content that's really hard to manage, and in the backup process, doesn't deduplicate and transfer well. So first off, the type of the data is becoming more and richer and more difficult to manage. Second of all, 40% of that data will touch the cloud in one way or another. What's interesting about that is 40% of 23 zettabytes is about 10 zettabytes of data, a lot of content that's going to be not only moving to the cloud, but needs to be well protected, secure, encrypted, et cetera. And then finally, the role of the business line. You guys are under pressure to do more with the content that you have, more with the data that you have. This is only going to get worse. And so as we look at 2020 and the pressure on backup, we think that your data protection plan needs to be specialized by workflow. Well, what do I mean by that? If you've got a cybersecurity environment, you're going to want to make sure that the content is not only ingested, but managed over time. If you've got a facial recognition project, you want to make sure your data protection is specialized for that. If you're looking at your VMs, how do you manage that in native format? And so we think over time, there's going to be even more pressure on specializing data protection by the workflow and by the application that's driving it. So let's look at today's approach, and then we'll look at some ways to help resolve it. First of all, in today's approach, people typically take the data and they treat it in a uniform way, whether it's your CRM, whether it's your content in Exchange, or whether it's your unstructured data like your videos and so on. They back that up in a batch process to a deduplication device, and then ultimately try to replicate that out, perhaps to another facility or out to the cloud. This is the traditional way that people have moved from a tape-based environment to a deduplication-based environment, and also retain content long-term on tape, typically encrypted. So here's the state of where we are today. Two problems with this. One, treats data all the same. And then two, as it scales, as your primary data scales, it only puts more and more pressure on this whole environment, which we think ultimately needs a revolutionary approach, needs new technologies. It's busted. And so as we look at the next generation of data protection and how we think about it, let me give you three helpful hints that we look at as we talk to customers. First of all, break out your unstructured data, treat it like it should be treated. Unstructured data like video, images, et cetera, typically will require a new way of approaching it, a tiered storage-based approach, perhaps new technology like object storage, which will allow you to manage your data in an extended online way over time, and will allow you to migrate that data in its own footprint and across sites. Second of all, look at your virtual environment differently. Snap your virtual environment in native form. Doesn't have to be in a binary proprietary format. If you can snap your VMs, move them off to a deduplication system, and ultimately off to the cloud, not only does that improve your backup, it enables new kinds of disaster recovery that maybe you haven't thought of so far. And then third, think about unstructured data differently and the role that you're going to play with getting the data out to the cloud. It's not only the cost of the storage, more importantly, it's the cost of the wire and how you move data. So technologies like variable length deduplication play a really important role as opposed to fixed length, because you want to get your data as compact as it can to be able to provision the network and get it off site. So 3 helpful hints that we see right now that people can take advantage of, not only to help their current backup environment, but to set them up for the kind of environment they're going to face in 2020. So 3 things. Break out your unstructured data, snap your VMs in native form, think about those differently, and 4th, think about the deduplication that you're using, and is it efficiently using not only storage, but the network itself. If you want to hear more about our approach to backup, this idea of backups busted and what to do about it, please visit quantum.com or come to our booth, booth number 829. Thanks very much.